Hey, it's Jen, and welcome back to our community. This podcast is where we're getting real about wellness rituals, life-changing habits, and having relatable conversations with friends about mental health, social media, morning routines, or lack thereof. And we're talking about that thing that you thought no one else could relate to. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our community. Welcome back to Dare to Self-Care. So let's dive right in. If you are watching on Spotify or YouTube, I just want to let you know I don't do the intros on camera, but the interviews are on camera. So stay tuned. You can keep watching and the video will come up. Just wanted to give you that little housekeeping update, but let's dive right in with what's in alignment and out of alignment for this week. And you guys reflect on your weeks as well. So my in alignment is definitely that I finally had my 1-year check-in for Parsley Health. So I started with a functional medicine doctor 1 year ago, right when I got off birth control 1 year ago. And I'm thrilled to announce that we did my blood work and all of my hormones are balanced, which is so crazy. So we're 1 year in and I've done so much to get my body back in alignment and adjusted and get my hormones rebalanced after coming off the pill. And it's so rewarding to know that I've actually done it and that all of these like holistic natural remedies work. So I'm thrilled to do an episode on everything I did after getting off birth control to get to this point. So just DM me if you're interested in that. This is when I wish podcasting would just have like a comment section, but it's fine. Everything's fine. But I'm really thrilled about it. It makes me feel really good. The unfortunate part and fortunate part is that I'm fertile, but not trying to be right now. So it's great news and I'm very lucky, but I have to really get things into check. I'm going to try Phexxi. My Parsley Health coach was actually able to, or doctor was able to prescribe me it. So I'll keep you updated on that, but let's get into what's out of alignment. You guys, I am not a socially anxious person at all. I have been struggling with severe social anxiety from like one specific encounter. I don't know if it's like I don't branch out enough or I don't know what it is, but I am so used to the people who already know me that I don't have to think about. I don't know. I'm meeting new people all the time. What am I saying? But I have just been replaying one specific social encounter in my head for days since it occurred. And it is so unlike me. And I'm like, wanting to take back everything I said that they probably don't even remember or think about that specific thing. And like, I'm replaying every answer to their question. And like, it's just, I don't know what it's about. I don't know what it's stemming from, but I'm having social anxiety and I'm not used to this. So if this is something you do where like you overanalyze everything you said in a conversation that they're definitely not thinking about, like if this was my friend, I would give them the advice that like, this is only you thinking about it. They're not thinking about it. But it's really hard to take your own advice. So I don't know. It's just like a weird new anxious experience I'm having. And I know that it'll pass. And like in a week, I'll be fixated on something else. So I'm just like waiting for that time to come, waiting for my therapy session this week. But yes, another thing I did want to mention. Well, let's breathe in what was in alignment and breathe out what was out of alignment real quick. Okay. I did want to mention really quick, if you follow on TikTok, you already know this. I overcommitted. I blacked out. You know, when you're drunk and you overcommit to plans and you're like, yeah, let's go out tomorrow. And then you wake up and you're like, why did I say I was going to do that? I used to do that all the time. That is how I feel. Because after my cardio class, I was high from cardio at Rumble Training and I committed to a 6 a.m. Wednesday morning workout class because there's a new trainer with a new time slot and I wanted to be supportive. And then I realized after, wait, I'm going to have to leave my apartment to work out in the 5 a.m. hour. What am I saying? But Carla's coming with me. And if we all could make it a thing together, if you're in New York City, please come. I will hook you up, DM me. And Wednesday morning, we can all go to the 6 a.m. together, hold each other accountable. Because I know after, I will be thrilled to have, 3.5 hours before work to do my own thing and like grab coffee and do other work. Like I will be thrilled about it. But that's really hard and not something I'm ever going to do again. So please come if you're in New York, DM me. I will help you out. So let's get into, and that's tomorrow, by the way, Wednesday in Chelsea. This episode's launching on Tuesday, so that's tomorrow. Okay. Dare to Try It is where we are giving my little product recommendation real quick. And this week, it's definitely the Dr. Jart Moisturizer. It is like a green, thick moisturizing cream. And if you struggle with rosacea, I highly recommend. It has like color correction in it from the green, but it's also just so soothing and smoothing. I'm obsessed with it. Every time I switch moisturizers, there's like 3 that I always know if I come back to them, my skin will clear up and smooth out. And this is one of them. But let's get into this week's episode. So we have Carolina of the Carolina Lifestyle on the podcast this week, and we did a swap. So you can go to her podcast, Inner Growth, to hear the second half of this episode where we flipped the script and she's hosting me on her podcast. So if you want more from me, you can go to hers, Inner Growth. We are talking to Carolina this week. She is a certified holistic health coach and hormone specialist. We talk about perfectionism, cycle syncing, body love, recipes, how to actually incorporate cycle syncing into your daily routine. So we're not getting into, we already had the founder of the method, Alyssa Vitti, on this podcast. Go check out that episode for Cycle Syncing 101. We're not diving into that. This was more like, okay, how do you actually incorporate it into your daily routine? And it was really helpful. We talk about how she moved from Brazil to New York City at age 13, I believe. And she was really, at a rock bottom at that point. And we spoke about how she went from rock bottom to a spiritual awakening that changed her life. It's a really incredible story, really inspiring. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Please leave me a review on Apple or Spotify, wherever you're listening. It would really, really help me out, help us grow this podcast and get more amazing listeners. So wherever you're listening right now, just pop on over, scroll to the review section and type one in real quick. Thank you so much. I love you guys. Let's get into the episode. Caro.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
We have been meaning to do this for, I think, 2 years.
Way too long.
Like,
no, 2 years.
No, it was like last summer. I'm
1 year. 1 year. We literally met, I think it was like May of last year.
I know
and
it was that summer
day.
because I've never sweat so much in my life.
Yes.
We were
that rooftop workout was so good.
Yeah, we were at a rooftop workout. Jordana, the Daily Schvitz, introduced us. And I have to tell you, your energy, and I think this is why, oh my God, my phone's buzzing, so rude. Airplane mode. I think this is why you are so successful. You have like a palpable energy.
Thank you.
Like you glow.
Oh my gosh. That's like literally my favorite compliment in the world.
I know, it is, right?
Thank you.
You must
a lot of
meditate.
People say that though. Yes, I meditate. I try to meditate every day.
I don't know why I feel like anyone who has like the glow and like that energy that you can just feel when they walk into a room has to meditate.
I do think that.
Right?
For sure. Or at least have had some level of like awakening and like
totally
self-development work.
Wait, I actually heard you on another podcast saying you had a spiritual awakening.
Yes.
It's so funny because like before this, we're like, what do you want to talk about? We came up with like 6 topics and then we sit down and I'm like, wait, but your spiritual awakening.
That's literally what I talked about, I think, on Jordana's podcast.
I don't know which one I listened to. It was a podcast that like I didn't know them originally and I just typed your name in.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I've been on a few different ones, but yeah, I mean, my spiritual awakening was like the start of everything.
You're 23.
Yeah.
When was the spiritual awakening and what does that mean? Because genuinely I'm curious because I don't know if I've had one or not.
Okay, so how I define spirituality is your connection to yourself and something bigger. Like I have a very broad and so for me, my spiritual awakening kind of came when I decided to go deeper and when I started taking responsibility for how I was showing up in my life and got out of that like victim mindset of blaming everyone around me, blaming all the different people or situations in my life for why things weren't working out or why I was showing up and not my best. When I got out of that and I moved within and I actually started taking that responsibility, And then that trickled down to a bunch of different changes in my life, like things that I started doing. That was kind of like my awakening. But the trigger point was reading a book, actually.
What book?
The Power of Now.
Okay, I have that before. I have it in my apartment and I haven't picked it up yet.
Okay, you have to read it.
But I have had a spiritual awakening then. Yeah. I never know when people say that if it means they like did ayahuasca and it was like that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I guess for some people that is their awakening.
Which, by the way, I've done shrooms and had the spiritual epiphany on shrooms. Like so I've definitely had one. It's actually interesting. Didn't know we were going to go here, but when I did go on shrooms, I had this feeling of like, I didn't know what the thing greater than me was. Like, I didn't think it was God. I'm not a big religious girl. Like, I just didn't know what to believe in, if that makes sense. And I had this weird feeling of like, Jen, like, I got your back. Like, so now I call it my higher self.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like it's me.
Exactly.
It's just like the me without all of the circumstances and the drama.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's like your higher self, in my eyes, is just a version of you that knows that you are worthy and complete and whole and like everything is fine. And if you stop like overthinking about the like egoic things like the physical world, like your job, your appearance, whatever everyone else thinks of you, you move beyond that, that's like your higher self.
I love it because it makes me feel like that connection is like it's not relying on, and like I know people love to feel like it's something outside of them, but I kind of feel empowered that it's inside of me.
That's why my podcast is called Inner Growth.
That's so true.
Literally, it's like the inner work is when you go inside and you realize like it's already a part of you. You're already enough, you know, like that feeling, which is really hard to attain, especially when we dive into kind of like how society teaches us to be as women, or all the expectations that are placed on us, all the contradictions between like what you're supposed to do or what's acceptable or what makes you beautiful or what makes you accepted, etc. Like all of that can be really hard to like break through to get to that point of like I'm completely worthy as I am.
Okay, where does this all come from for you? Like, was there a point where you, and I don't necessarily even have like a rock bottom, it wasn't like this rock bottom moment, but like you're 23, you had a spiritual awakening, you have a podcast called Inner Growth, you're clearly so knowledgeable about the space. Where did it start? Like who was Carol before the spiritual awakening, I guess is the question.
Yeah. That's such a good question. It's a juicy one. Okay, so when I think about Caro pre-spiritual awakening, my spiritual awakening literally hit me like when lockdown started. So 2020, 3 years ago.
Same.
So I had basically just turned 21 because I'm going to turn 24 in a month.
You turned 21 in lockdown?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. I think it was so funny because I turned 21 and then like all of this stuff unlocked almost for me. But the version of me before this, I think I was just so out of tune with myself. And I guess if I really trace it all the way back, I moved. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I lived in Brazil growing up. What? So I was born in São Paulo. Like I lived in Brazil until I was like end of middle school.
You're fucking cool.
Thank you. I'm an immigrant, technically.
That's a cool fun fact.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't know that about me because I don't have really much of a strong accent anymore. I've lived here for almost 11 years, I think now. So when I moved, I had just turned 13, I think. So imagine, you just became a teen.
You were in Brazil till 13?
Mm-hmm.
That's your whole growing up.
Yeah, like that was like my whole childhood. And then my like adolescent years, like I literally turned a teen and then I moved.
Why did your family move?
My dad's job.
Amazing.
Yeah. Like I think they just wanted to kind of go somewhere a little bit safer and just have a different experience, and they just kind of wanted growth, I think. So
was that hard for you?
Oh, extremely hard. So that's why I say I think that's kind of when things started, because I moved to Chicago. So I used to live in the suburbs there, and then I lived there 2 years. So I went there for like 8th grade, 9th grade. Then I moved to Florida and I lived there for 3 years. And then I moved to college, was there for 3 years, then was abroad, and then COVID hit, and then I had to go home. And then I graduated and moved to New York. So from 13 till basically 21, my life was chaos. Like I did not have a sense of like stability in my life. I was constantly moving on the go, like having to reacclimate to new friends, new environment, new schools. So I think that kind of made me like a chameleon. Like that just made me so adaptable and flexible, but that also really kind of diluted my sense of self. And also more broadly, like when you turn into a teen, your body changes, you get your period, your body starts to change. Also, you're trying to figure out who you want to be, where do you want to go to school, do you want to go to college, like what do you want to study, what do you want to focus on? And then you also start to explore yourself like in the romantic world, like you want boys to like you or girls, I guess. Like, oh, for me it was boys. But like you're just navigating so much, and amongst that amount of change, having all the like environmental shifts for me, like my local environment changing so much, I think that caused me to get really disconnected. And then kind of feel like my worth was dependent on all these other things. Like, oh, my worth is dictated by my grade. So I was always that like straight A perfectionistic student, like always wanting to be the best. And I think that's also an older sister kind of trait, but like wanting to receive validation for my achievements or for what I looked like, or feeling like I had to change what I looked like for a guy to like me. All of that. So going into college at this point, like 18, I was like in a deep kind of moment of my eating disorder. Like it was really bad. I was so restrictive. I hated myself. Like I got to a point where I didn't recognize myself anymore. Like my first semester of college. So also going into college, I wasn't my best self. I wasn't my highest self. And so the stuff that I was going into, the stuff I was attracting into my life, like was aligned with that version of me. So that's kind of like, long story short, what Caro pre-awakening was like.
Yeah.
So just kind of like low sense of self-worth, very much kind of needing this external validation, feeling like I needed other people to like me, and just disconnected from my own body and my mind as well. And so it was just kind of like negative. And then also within the college environment for me, it was like a lot of partying, work hard, play hard kind of vibe.
Okay, so it sounds like a huge thread with everything, though, was perfectionism.
100%.
And you've healed a lot of what you've gone through since your spiritual awakening. Do you find that the perfectionism is still something that bleeds into everything you do now?
Actually, I think healing my perfectionism or working on it consciously has been really important. So,
how?
I mean, I still notice perfectionistic tendencies in me, but becoming aware of like how it plays a role in my life, and then realizing like I do not have to be perfect to be worthy, to be loved, to be liked, to be good enough. Like, no, that has been a really big belief I've had to unlearn. So I feel like that for me was realizing like, here I am, like, oh my God, holding on for dear life, like trying to be so perfect, but I'm also not looking at myself with compassion. And the biggest thing I notice as a thread also with clients that I've worked with before in a coaching space is perfectionism. And the way I see perfectionism actually show up the most in people's life is in two ways. The first is 0 to 100 mindset. It's like either I have a perfect routine, a perfect life, I work out every day, I meditate every day, I drink this much water, I don't ever like have sweets or whatever it is that you think you're supposed to be doing. And if you miss one day or if you miss a couple of days, you're like, yeah, I'm worthless. Like, why am I even trying? And then you drop it and then you don't do it for a long time until it kind of gets to another extreme. And then you kind of go back to this same cycle. So finding balance is like almost like the magic key.
Right. Instead of don't expect perfectionism. Striving for balance will allow you to not even expect perfection.
Yeah. And I think in social media now, there's a lot of talk about balance. But to me, what balance really means is finding that self-compassion of, okay, for example, I was just traveling. I was in Europe. I was in Europe for 10 days with my boyfriend. Well, now my fiance, actually.
I'm so sorry. I didn't congratulate you first thing.
Thank you. It's okay. I'm not wearing my ring because we had to get it resized.
It's the ring would have been an immediate reminder.
But yeah, anyway, we were...
No, not anyway. Oh my God. You're engaged.
I am engaged.
Did you know it was going to happen?
Right to be. I did, intuitively. I'm too intuitive. I like kind of knew.
Gets in your way. Did you care that you knew?
No.
You knew it was going to happen on that trip?
Yes.
But you didn't know like that day?
Like
or
the exact how, or like I didn't know that. But yes, a bride to be now, which is exciting.
So crazy.
Yes, it's so fun.
Wait, can you tell us what happened? I don't want to derail from your story.
Should we do a little side note?
Yeah, I think so.
So how it happened. So going into the trip, I already kind of knew. I had told 2 friends. I was like, I feel like it's gonna happen in this trip. And then we went to Portugal, and then we were there for, I want to say, a week, and then we went to Madrid for 3 days. And by the time we got to Madrid, I was like, I wonder if he's going to do it. Maybe I was, like, wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Madrid, Pedro, who's my fiance, he was basically like, let's save the park, like Parque del Retiro, which is, like, the big park in Madrid. He was like, let's save the park for Sunday. It's going to be a nice day. Let's have, like, a romantic picnic. I was like, this man is, like, making a big deal out of this picnic.
Yeah.
But then he takes it a step further, and he's like, no. We have to find a picnic basket. Like, you know those actual baskets that you, like, open, and there's, like, a little plate and a little cup and a little, like, a storage container for all the food and the baguette,
Baguette.
Like, I was like, okay. And he was like, no. It has to be perfect. So obviously him making a big deal out of it kind of gave it away a little bit. So it's like, okay. He's probably gonna propose on this day. And then I think I said something to him. I was like, are you gonna propose or something?
No.
And I think he was like, no. And then it was just, like, such a pretty day, and it was really intimate. We were kind of on this part of the park where it wasn't super crowded, so it was this kind of grassy area. It was just us. We were just chilling there with our blanket. So good, like jams, cheese, jamon, like all the fruits.
Oh my god.
And then I was like, take a picture of me. I go on the grass. I'm running. I'm like having an inner child moment.
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, oh, since I'm kneeling, and then he grabs the ring.
Aww.
It was really cute. And it was, like, really private and wholesome.
I love
So we love it.
Wait, that's adorable. And now it'll always be a special place for you guys to go back to. Are you crying?
No, I'm not
But
crying.
it looked like you were about to, like...
No, I'm not crying.
Getting emotional.
I'm tearing up. No. But it was so funny, too, because on our way back, he didn't bring a checked bag, so he checked his carry-on, and then his carry-on was the basket. So we're going through the airport, and everyone's like, oh my god, nice basket.
Wait, that's hilarious.
So now the basket is, like, the symbol. It's like,
wait, so did you meet Pedro in New York?
No, we're actually family friends. So I've known him my whole... Yeah. Our moms are, like, best friends. Our parents went to college together.
So when did he come here?
So we started dating during lockdown in 2020.
Long distance?
No, because we were both in Florida at the time.
Got it.
Yeah, he was living there. I was living there. And then when I moved to New York post-grad, a few months later, he got accepted to Columbia for grad school. So he
really worked out.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting because when I didn't know that you were in Brazil till you were 13. And I just know you as this, like, New Yorker who's blown up on social media at 23 and, like, is also a health coach and into cycles. Like, that's kind of why I was asking you if perfectionism bleeds into everything else, because so much of what you do, it looks perfect.
Does it actually?
Yeah.
I guess, like, I don't see it that way. And that's a part of being a perfectionist.
Right.
I just made an Instagram post on the day that we're recording earlier today. And I was talking about how something I've really learned very recently, like in the last 2 weeks, especially, it's been almost this, like, heart opening where it's like accepting, or not even accepting, it's like telling yourself, I am worthy of good things. It's like
so hard to
allowing yourself to soak it up. And so I saw TikTok the moment that I landed from Europe. And this girl was basically saying, like, when things get really good in your life, you need to really tell yourself, like, I deserve this. Yeah. I am worthy of it. And for me, it's just looked like waking up every day. And the first thing I say to myself when I wake up is, I deserve good things. I'm worthy.
In your head?
In my head.
Like, I'm so curious about the specific, because,
like, I just think that.
I'm so curious about affirmations, because there's so many wellness practices that I have and do, like, pick up and actually practice. Mm-hmm. Affirmations, I find I totally understand the power of them. I understand how they can help you to unblock limiting beliefs, but I don't understand how you incorporate them into your daily life without, like, feeling silly.
Yeah, I mean, recently, because I've had so many different phases of my life when I did affirmations. I've had phases where, like, when I first started doing it, I would say it when I was, like, naked after the shower, like, looking at myself in the mirror, or I would have it in sticky notes on my mirror. But now I feel like the times I say it the most is now, like, when I wake up, this affirmation that I just said, which has helped so much with moving past this like element of perfectionism of not feeling like it's all good yet. Like noticing, oh, this is not going well. Even though all these other things are, that affirmation specifically has helped me get past that a little bit.
Especially when you're, and I can relate to this, have your hands in so many different things. It's kind of impossible for everything to be 100% and reach every single goal in every area.
And like right now. So it's like this sense of like, it has to be right now. It's like, no.
Do you have trouble like accepting small wins or celebrating small wins?
Yes.
Same.
Like taking the time to celebrate them. I'm just like always on to the next as a pattern. And so I'm really trying to slow down and actually soak up that good.
Okay, wait. You have like 200-something thousand followers on TikTok. You have all of these Instagram followers. You have a podcast. You have Inner Growth, which is also like a company, right? Isn't it not just
you
have like
I'm going to grow it into a bigger brand. I really want to.
It feels like a brand. It doesn't feel like just like a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You're also, I believe you do health coaching one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. Right now, I don't have any clients.
How did we get here? You had your spiritual awakening only less than 3 years ago during lockdown, or 3 years ago, whatever it was. I'm genuinely so curious about like the journey.
The evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we dive into it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. But before we do, I just wanted to say another time that I say affirmations, which I don't want to forget, is when I'm working out. It's like if you're doing a hard workout and like, for example, I'm training for a half marathon, when I'm doing that run that like feels a little longer, or when I'm in the middle of a workout that feels harder, or even if you're in a workout class and you're comparing yourself to everyone else in the class, is saying affirmations in that moment in your head of like, I'm strong, or my body is helping me, or my body is amazing, I'm like proud, I deserve to be here, I belong here, all these things.
That's very smart, because I always talk to myself in the gym. Not negatively, just like it's something that always helps me stay in a plank longer, or whatever it is like, if I can get through this, I can get through anything outside of a workout.
Yeah.
Do you know what
I mean? Or
even
like I can do hard things.
Yes. I've said that to myself. So that is an affirmation.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
So that I just wanted to mention that because I forgot. But yeah, so where do we start? So when I was in lockdown, it was in between my junior and senior year of college. And in May of 2020, I started doing the 75 hard challenge, mainly because I was like, I'm bored. Like, I have the time. Let's do it. Everyone was doing it on TikTok. So I started it. And in that moment was when I started the Carolina lifestyle. So I created my TikTok and I started sharing my journey doing the 75 hard challenge. I also at that time had the awakening. So the awakening kind of started March, April. So right before, I had read The Power of Now. I started therapy. I was kind of doing a lot of inner work. I was reading a lot of personal growth books, and I also was having a lot of alone time and really diving deeper into myself and healing through some of the negative beliefs I had around food and exercise, my body, my worth, etc. So all of that was happening while I was doing this challenge as well. And I kind of started sharing content about the challenge, but also other things like how to start your day in a high vibration, or recipes that I was creating, because I love to cook and I post a lot of recipes. I didn't really know how to cook that much before lockdown either. So that was something I was learning and realizing, like, cooking can be really easy. It doesn't have to be so complicated. Eating healthy can be really yummy, etc. But I honestly was struggling a little bit with orthorexia at that time, which is like the extreme pursuit of health.
I think so many people have struggled with it and may not even know that there's a name for it.
Mm-hmm. And that was really in the beginning of lockdown, because I also, for the 75 hard, was doing food combining. I was like not really eating dairy or gluten. I cut out meat. Like, it was not the best.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of how I started. But then things evolved. I actually had an internship at like a corporate company in the summer between my junior and senior year. So I got a return offer, and I remember I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go do this. I'll move to New York, like whatever. But I also had some doubts, because at that point I started doing my content, and I also started my holistic health coaching program, which my therapist suggested to me actually, because she also had done the same program. And I was like, wait, what if I was a health coach? What if I pursue content creation more? But I probably had never done, I don't think I had ever done a brand deal. Like, my content was very early on still, but there was a hunch in me that could be what I did. So that's why I was a little bit hesitant with pursuing that job at first. But I ended up signing the contract and went into my senior year, started dating my boyfriend or my fiance at that time, and decided to not go back to the campus because everything was virtual still. So I was doing my classes. I studied at Wharton at UPenn. So that's what I was doing.
Smarty pants.
And thank you. And so I was kind of doing my online classes, and then graduated, moved to New York. And at this point, my content was evolving. I launched my podcast March of 2021, so 2 years ago now. And I also started doing Instagram like end of 2020, like July, August. So things were kind of moving. I was posting, kind of moving through it. And then I feel like 2021 was a really hard year for me because, again, I was graduating. My parents moved homes at the time, and then I also moved to New York, and then I was long distance for a little bit. I also really fell off of a routine in that kind of period. I think it was a lot about, for all of us, acclimating to like the post-lockdown world. And how do you integrate social life when everyone's still wearing masks in the subway? And like there was so much transitionally that was happening that year for me. So it was kind of hard on my mental health. And it pushed me deeper into my spiritual awakening. And I had like a sober period in that year also, which kind of pushed me even further to grow. And then in 2022, I feel like things just like almost sped up a little bit. So I ended up leaving my marketing job to go work at a startup in the content creation space. And I worked there full-time for a bit and then part-time, like freelancing for them, doing kind of their social media, their Instagram, at the same time as growing everything else and experiencing more of this freedom that I've craved for so long of making my own schedule, working whenever I want. So that's kind of what I started experimenting with and showing to myself, like, I can do this with freedom. I can live this life that I want, and it's possible for me. That was 2022. That's kind of what it showed me. And then in November of last year, I rebranded my podcast, which used to be called Luna, the podcast, and then I changed it to Inner Growth because I wanted to make it into something bigger,
right,
and make it into like a movement almost, right, and like a brand. It's actually trademarked now, which is really exciting.
Very cool.
Like the moment that I came up with the name, I was like, I need to trademark this shit.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So yeah, basically that's kind of how it evolved. So since November of 2022, I've been full-time.
That's so
with
cool.
My like content, and then now I'm doing YouTube and the podcast.
Okay, so you didn't start that long ago. So what are your top tips for anyone listening that's like, I want to start now too? Like what, or I've already started and I feel like slow growth. Like what would you attribute your social media growth to? Because you grew rapidly.
I did grow pretty fast, especially on TikTok. I think for me, just in my case specifically, wellness content wasn't a thing in 2020, like on TikTok. It
Very
really
true,
wasn't.
because I wasn't really into TikTok. I didn't even have the app.
It was like a handful of creators, and
it was like funny videos.
It was funny videos, but like within wellness, it was very small, like a very small niche, and it grew really fast because of the that girl trend later on, which
totally.
I always say, don't try to be that girl, be this girl.
Yep.
But anyway, that's a whole other thing we don't have to dive into now. But because of that trend, wellness picked up a little bit more. And I think it's evolved in many different directions on social media. But if someone was starting right now, I would say consistency is the biggest thing. Like you have to get reps in, you have to post, and you have to be okay with maybe it's not going to perform the best in the beginning. Maybe it's not going to be visually the best. But that's okay, because the more that you do it, the better you're going to get at it. The more you're going to refine how you want to edit, how you're going to show your personality, what kind of content you enjoy doing. That kind of takes time.
I'm also jealous because, like, it's not as crazy to get on social media anymore. Like, when I started my YouTube channel right out of college, it was kind of crazy. Like, no one, like, it was weird. I was like, oh my God, everyone in high school is going to talk about it. Like, it was a unique thing to do. Now it's like, if you start a brand or a business, you need to be on social media. If you, like, everything social media, especially since TikTok, I feel like everyone is creating on TikTok. So it's not as big of a fear factor anymore. Although it still takes confidence to post. It's kind of like the barriers are a little easier to push through because I feel like everyone and their mother creates content.
Yeah, but I also think a lot of people, their block is,
totally,
oh, what if people from high school see this video? I guess in my case, I didn't really care about that. I don't know why, but maybe I did. I didn't want people to know as much, so I wasn't like telling everyone. But I think the moving around, it just kind of helped me.
You'll never have to see them to totally. Well, a huge part of your content is cycle syncing, and we've had, and if you haven't listened to the episode yet, we've had Alyssa Vitti on the podcast, who obviously founded the method. So we've, had a deep dive episode into
the ins and outs of it.
Totally. But I'm now more curious as I'm trying to, because at that point I didn't get off birth control pill yet. Like I was at a different place. Now I'm off birth control for like a year or something. I'm like, my cycle's good. Like everything's on track, and I'm really trying to implement cycle syncing in so many different ways. So I'm curious, you are a hormone specialist. You practice cycle syncing. You teach about it. How are you implementing it into your daily life? Or is it just the workouts? Is it the food? Like, what is your routine?
I think that's a really good question, because especially if anyone listening has struggled with their body or with restriction or with really strict rules or with any extreme, cycle syncing can feel very restrictive, as it's described sometimes, of like, every week you have to change your routine, you have to eat these certain foods, you have to do these certain workouts, and if you don't do that, you're doing it wrong, in quotation marks. That's not really how I like to approach it, because I'm very aware of like my own past and relationship with my own body. So I do it in a very non-restrictive way, and I kind of use it more as a guideline. So the first thing that I kind of take away from it is energetically just being aware of how I feel. So knowing, okay, in my luteal phase, like the days leading up to my period, I'm going to be more sensitive. I'm going to take things a little bit more personally. So if my boyfriend or fiance says, I still have to adjust to saying fiance.
Fun. It's fun to correct yourself.
If he says something to me that triggers me, take a step back.
Sorry, this is really hilarious because I'm in my luteal phase, and the way I got in a fight with Ethan the other day, 2 days ago.
It's like the smallest thing.
It was over paint. And I'm not like a fighter. I'm very peaceful, I like to think. And I was talking to my therapist the next morning, and I'm like, I'm not even like, it's not like my period's coming or anything. And then I was like, wait. And I checked my app, and I was like, never mind.
Ovulation has passed.
So it's funny, you're literally describing me right now. Go on.
And so, for example, like, I'm ovulating right now. So I'm feeling it. I'm like,
this
feeling
is a good day for you to podcast.
Yes, it's the perfect day for me to podcast, actually. But yeah, I feel like that has been game changing. It's just knowing where I'm at. Just having that awareness, first of all, is really important, because how are you going to cycle sync if you don't know which phase you're in? Learning how to properly track your cycle and know which phase you're in, like, that's the most basic part of cycle syncing. It's not, what food should I be eating on day 10? It's like, no.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important.
I don't follow the foods, really. What I do have is the Bio Wellness seed cycling packs. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's seed cycling. They basically just package it for you. So, like, it's Bio Wellness. They have 2 bags. One is phase 1. The other is phase 2 of your, like, the second half of your cycle. And it just combines the seeds for you. So, like,
that's so nice.
Put it into my yogurt, whatever. That's the only thing I
actually haven't even done really seed cycling.
So my Parsley health coach told me to do it. And I was like, she was like, there's no evidence to support it. But I was like, so I got the seeds, and they taste so good. And
have you noticed a difference?
I have no idea, but
have you noticed a difference in like your cycling?
So yes, I just don't know if it's because of my. You know what I mean? Like, there's I do maca every day. Like, I do so many things that it's hard to really pinpoint what it is. But the seed mix tastes so good.
Okay, I'll have to try that.
That I'm just gonna keep getting this and doing it, because it actually, I love, like, it's such an easy scoop to put into my yogurt. Why not? So I do that. As far as food, that's the only thing I do cycle-wise. I'm mainly paying attention to, like, the workouts, because...
Yes, so that's what I was going to say is when it comes to the working out, it's being really aware of the intensity of the workout, not necessarily the type of workout.
Okay.
So what I always say is, like, I like to weightlift, for example. So if I want to weightlift, I'm probably not going to do it in my, like, menstrual phase, like when I'm bleeding. Maybe, like, the very last day, I'll, like, get back into it and do it with very light weights. Like, I'm not out here lifting, like, 20-pound weights on each hand in the beginning of my cycle or even at the end of it. I'm aiming to have those, like, heavier weight days at the peak of my follicular phase, my ovulatory phase, and then let's say I would lower the intensity with like lighter weights in the rest of the cycle. If you like yoga, you can do hot yoga sculpt like during your peak days, and then do like lighter flows or yin yoga in the other parts of your cycle. So it's more about adjusting the intensity, the way I see it.
Okay, that's important because the way it's usually framed is do Pilates and yoga this time, do HIIT workouts this time. And it's like, wait.
It's like, what if you don't like Pilates?
I was just going to say. Or what if you don't like, exactly. What if you just like strength training and you want to go to the gym and be a gym girly? How do you adjust according to your cycle in that one? So that was the easiest, most simple way that I could understand it. Like that was very helpful because I love doing like Pilates half the week and strength half the week. And I don't really want to not do that. So, that's such a better way to look at it. It's like add the ankle weights on for your Pilates during, ovulation, but then maybe just do like body weight, slower Pilates. I love that. It's intensity.
Small tweaks. Again, balanced approach, not extreme approach. It's like the way that it's presented to us is like run on your ovulation, do this, and again, it feels like a rule. And if you don't do it, then you're doing it wrong. Which is why a lot of people don't do it.
Who has access to all of these tips? Unless you have like the mirror or like who has access to like Pilates this week? And do you know what I mean? Like it just the way it's framed is a little unrealistic. And it's still, if that works for you, great. But I think I needed to hear it in terms of like, okay, how do you adjust it to the workouts that you like so you can keep doing those workouts but adjust them accordingly?
Exactly.
But it's interesting because I've been trying to do that. I'm a little loose with it, but like today, I'm in my luteal phase. I was craving like a HIIT workout. I had been so lazy all week and I was just craving like the endorphins and all the things. And I was like, this is weird because I'm in my luteal phase. And then I was like, okay, stop.
How do you feel now after you did the workout?
It's interesting.
Do you feel really, really tired?
I'm starting to get like a headache.
I literally saw a post about this a little while ago, but it was kind of like a lot of the times in our luteal phase, we feel so tired. So we say, let's go to berries. Like, let's go do a really, really intense workout. But then afterwards, you get a headache, you feel more tired, you need a coffee or whatever. So maybe if you had done something that still would have gotten you to move your body, maybe you went for like a really long, like inclined walk, or you did like Pilates or something, or sculpt, yoga, whatever it is, but something that's still going to get you to sweat and get the endorphins, but maybe it's not going to be like crazy. Like a F45, maybe you wouldn't have a headache.
That's what because I was like, but I'm also trying to move intuitively and this is what I feel I need right now.
Yeah.
But the fact that you just made me take a second and think about how I'm feeling, I feel energized because I'm doing something I'm passionate about today. Yeah. So I feel energized through this. But when I really stopped to think about how I feel, I was wondering where my headache was coming from. And it's because I'm getting my period. So interesting.
Yeah. It's just like a lot about awareness. It's like the baseline of
grabbing my
thinking.
water. We need to hydrate
a little bit. And then two other things that I really emphasize when I talk about the cycle is stress and also food. But food in the sense of the most important thing, the best thing you can do for your body hormonally is balancing your meals. Again, balance is a thread here. But to balance your meals, that literally just means make sure you have fiber, make sure you have protein, make sure you have healthy fats.
Ugh, it's so
That's
hard.
it.
You mean every meal?
Hard. It's not hard. I'll give an example. If you're having lunch, this can look like a base of like arugula and maybe some broccoli or cauliflower, fiber. Or maybe some like fibrous carbs, so like sweet potato or something like that, quinoa. Then you throw in some chicken, some grilled chicken or salmon or tilapia. Or eggs are not like the highest in protein. So usually when I have eggs, I'll have it with another protein thing.
Interesting.
But also even eggs, yeah. Eggs can be great, or like you throw in some edamame, whatever it is that you use for protein. Just being mindful of the amount of protein. And then healthy fats. Throw in a third of an avocado, a drizzle of olive oil, some pumpkin seeds.
Yeah, I guess when you think about it, it's like a lot of us are already doing that.
Or like you're going to have pasta. Have pasta, throw in a little bit of spinach into it. Maybe have lentil pasta or something, and then throw in like turkey, like ground turkey or chicken.
How are you making sure, as someone who does lift and do strength training, that you're getting enough protein without overthinking and counting?
I just focus on being protein forward. So I always think about protein first. That's like the focus of all of my meals. So for example, with breakfast, if I'm doing like a yogurt bowl, I'll put like an extra scoop of protein powder into it, which it's so good. Like if you add chocolate protein to Greek yogurt, it makes it taste like a mousse. It's so good.
See, I add almond butter or peanut butter and I mix it in.
But that's more healthy fats than it is protein. It has a little bit of protein, but I realized that like that's going to add more of the healthy fats than it would anything else.
Which protein powder? Because so many of them have like heavy metals and shit in them.
I'm very picky with my protein powder.
Tell us.
Be Well by Kelly has a 4-ingredient protein powder. It's the best protein powder I've ever used. I'm never going to use a different one.
Writing that one down. Be Well by Kelly.
Be Well by Kelly, the chocolate protein. I'm pretty sure it's literally 4 ingredients. You can look it up. But that's the only one that I use, basically. And I think she has a vanilla one also.
Okay. I'm getting that.
And she, as a content creator as well, I think she has a book too, talks a lot about exactly this, like the balancing of your plate with the 4 macronutrients.
Okay.
Fiber.
I've heard of her books, right? Like people love her books.
People love her books.
Okay.
I've never read her books. So.
I know who she is now. Okay. Ending segment.
Let's do it.
Because I feel like we could keep going on and we're going on her podcast. I forgot to mention this is a pod swap. So go
listen to Inner Growth.
Go listen to Inner Growth. And we're going to be on there next. Okay. Rapid fire. Top self-care tip.
Top self-care tip is hydrate and make sure you get enough sleep and be kind to yourself.
Love it. And do you have any like product that you hydrate with, like add to your water or just like
I'm just saying drink enough water.
Great. Okay.
Remember to water yourself.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Favorite book or podcast?
I have so many favorite books, but one of my favorites, I have to say, Power of Now. Also, Untamed is amazing.
Love.
And one last recommendation, Journey of Souls. Ooh. So good.
Okay, I'll have to read that. And what is your favorite podcast?
Skinny Confidential.
Skinny Confidential.
I also love Jay Shetty's podcast.
Okay, those are my 2 favorites too.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, lastly, wellness product that you can't live without right now.
I'll have to say that protein powder. Like, honestly, I have been using it for a little while now. I'm almost done with my first one, like the first pack that I got, and it's so good. And I'm trying to think of another one that I've been doing every day. Honestly, a little wellness product that like I had to cave in is the Stanley like big water bottle. It's worth the hype. It's worth the hype.
I don't get it.
Have you bought it before?
It's just a water bottle.
It's just a water bottle, but one, it looks really aesthetic. 2, for some reason, the straw, like sometimes some straws are like too thin or like they don't, I don't know, not enough water comes out of the water bottle. But this particular straw is just something about it. Like a lot of water comes through it, so you end up drinking so much water.
The way everyone is promoting this water bottle as if it's like revolutionary.
I have to say it's worth the hype.
Adds electrolytes or something. Like I don't get it.
It's worth the hype though.
Okay.
For sure. And also the Oura Ring. I love my Oura Ring.
I really want one.
It's
really
worth it.
want one.
I think it's worth the investment for sure.
I feel like I should have one. I feel like it's on brand.
I'm surprised you don't, honestly.
I just haven't made the investment.
And I'm surprised you don't have the Stanley water bottle.
And the standing desk that we're talking about and a walking pad. That I need first before anything else.
Yeah. I got the standing desk, but I still have to buy my walking pad.
I really need it. I think I need that before a Stanley water bottle.
Okay. Fair.
Okay, shout yourself out. Where can everyone follow you?
Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing. And if you guys want to connect with me, you can follow me at The Carolina Lifestyle on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And then you can listen to my podcast at Inner Growth and also follow us at innergrowth.co on Instagram to be in the loop of podcast episodes and future things that we're going to do for the brand also.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to go record on her podcast now. So go head over there and listen.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for listening to that episode. Please leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you just can't get enough of this podcast, go subscribe over on YouTube. You can see the full-length video episodes and shorter clips as well. You can find TikTok clips over at jenlauren with 2 N's. You can find Instagram Reels if that's your jam over on Instagram at jen_lauren with 2 N's and even Dare to Self Care Pod on Instagram.